And welcome once again, everybody, to another fantastic edition here of the Mass Steel Podcast. So, of course, yours truly, Charles Prodigy Richey. We got a good one in store for you right now. It is Steelers versus Ravens right now. Week 8 of the National Football League right now. AFC North supremacy on the line this weekend. It doesn't get any better than that right now. Steelers are looking to still maintain their historic pace right now, matching since 1978. If they happen to pull off their 7 straight victories to start off the season, just like 1978, could be 7-0 right now. Steelers Ravens doesn't get any better than this. For me, as a Steelers fan covering this team, one of arguably the all-time greatest rivalries, if not the top rivalry in the history of the National Football League. We'll get into some stuff a little bit later on. We'll go over the injury report for today, going into week number 8 right now. Steelers having quite a few guys out here. 9 starters altogether on the report who did not practice. 11 players total for today going into this weekend's matchup, while the Ravens have 2 starters who didn't practice, 4 total altogether. Once again, you can follow me on social media, on Twitter and Instagram. You can follow me at Prodigy Richey. For the Mass Steel Podcast on Twitter, it is at Mass Steel CJR and at Mass Steel Nation on Instagram right here. Plus, the Steelers are moving up in the power rankings continually to go on right now. Don't forget, next week I'll be trying to do a follow-up with Brian DiArlo, NFL writer for CBS Sports, trying to hope to get him back on here, trying to do a quarterly thing with the power rankings as they're going on. I'm basing all my power rankings off of NFL.com week to week, but once we do hit the quarter mark every 4 games, I'll be looking at the other power rankings as well. So I'll be definitely taking a look at ESPN, Pro Football Focus, Pro Football Talk, and much more. And of course, First Take, I don't know if you've been watching every week. I don't know if you guys watch with Stephen A. Smith when he does his, for all things, for his list, and especially with football, he does Stephen's A list right now. He's got the Steelers in the top 5 for at least, I think, 3 consecutive weeks, if memory serves to be correct. So right now, get ready to hear where things stand out right there. And like I said, it doesn't get any better than this. If you guys want to, feel free to tune in on the Mass Steel Podcast Show. Catch me streaming live right now. You definitely catch me on my Facebook and on my Facebook page for today. No Instagram live today. That is Mass Steel Podcast. Feel free to leave me a like. And if you guys want to subscribe for any notifications on your Facebook, feel free to go ahead. I do podcast my stuff real quickly in case everyone wants to ever check out my Mass Steel Podcast. You can definitely check me out on Anchor.fm. And basically that puts my podcast, it shares it to Breaker Audio, Google Podcasts, Overcast, Podcast, Radio Public C, PBC, and Spotify. And of course, you can also check out my Mass Steel Podcast on Mixcloud and SoundCloud. Just once again, if you do go check it out on Anchor, make sure to type in Crunch Time Presents Mass Steel Podcast and On Deck on CSR. I do have a show on ChicagolandSportsRadio.com. I do every Saturdays from 1 to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. So let's get ready to get into it right now. As we look at, I did mention the injury report going into this weekend's matchup versus the Ravens right now. Steelers all-time against the Ravens career-wise are 28-24-0 and during the regular season 25-23, 2-game lead in the regular season, but with career victories of 28 wins altogether. Obviously, they lost the last 2 matchups back in 2019. Big reason with Big Ben Roethlisberger out for the season. They had a lot to do with everything. I mean, if you ask me right there, but I mean, they did seem to have these Ravens team on the ropes right there. And I think Ola Adeni right there got a hit with roughing the passer call right there that helped set the Ravens up nicely. They were able to go down the march and win with a field goal in that victory right there. And that was probably like their best crack, because we saw what happened the following game and the season last year. And it ended pretty ugly, getting a beat down of 18 points 10-28 was a final score. It was a rainy day in Baltimore. Steelers were needing a win. I mean, just like getting the playoffs and some help right there. The odds were not in their favor at that time, but we'll see how things turn around this time. But let's go ahead and get into the injury report, as I was just mentioning right now. So here are the starters who did not practice going into week number 8 for the Steelers-Ravens matchup. You got Ben Roethlisberger, non-injury related, did not practice. Deontay Johnson, who's dealing with a toe injury. Once again, it's been happening throughout the season. Remember last time he had a back injury. He didn't practice, along with Juju Smith-Schuster. He's dealing with a knee injury. You got Mike Hilton, of course, with the shoulder injury. Derek Watt. No, not Derek Watt, excuse me. Marquise Pouncey, center, elbow. He didn't practice. David DeCastro, not injury related. Left tackle, Alejandro Villanueva, elbow, as well as Eric Ebron, their tight end. And then Stephon Tuitt right there, non-injury related. The good news is about Derek Watt, who's been dealing with a hamstring injury. And don't forget, Derek Watt, he happened to miss the last game versus the Titans. Remember, don't forget, the last week, Derek Watt, who was also dealing with a hamstring injury, he was ruled out for last week's Week 7 contest for the Titans. Derek Watt, he was a full participant in practice today. That's the good news right there. So that's some encouragement for anybody looking for the positives. Now, as far as the Ravens, the 2 stars who I was mentioning who did not practice, you got Calais Campbell, defensive tackle, not injury related. He didn't practice. And then you got Marlon Humphrey, left cornerback with an illness. He didn't practice. The other people who were on this list that didn't practice are Robert Griffin III, not injury related. And, of course, last but not least, forgot to add on here, excuse me, so I take that back. I meant 3 starters who didn't practice. So you also got running back Mark Ingram, the second. He's dealing with an ankle injury going into this week's matchup right now. And we'll see how this continues to play its way out here. Steelers-Ravens, and going to be in Baltimore. Not always the easiest place to win, as everyone may recall. Don't forget the Steelers. One traveling to Baltimore, the last few years, that's been a house of horrors for them at times. And a pretty good trap game as far as during the division rivalry there. It was nice to see, for at least 2 straight years, they got some back-to-back road wins. The last one coming back in November 2018, which was Joe Flacco's last game, by the way. They were able to win that game by a touchdown, 23-16. And then, of course, they beat them on October 1st of 2017. But, pretty much when the Steelers go down there in Baltimore, they're pretty much owned by that team. If you ask me, when Mike Tomlin was going up against John Harbaugh and crew, when you take a look at it and when it's all said and done at the end of the day, this is a team right here who right now, just smelling it and doing pretty darn good, if you ask me. Steelers-Ravens right now, this is what it's all about right now. You talk about how the Steelers been really making jumps, like I mentioned here. You just had the power rankings come out yesterday right now. And according to NFL.com, right now, they still got the Steelers right now in this position for ahead of Week 8. You got the Steelers at number 2 right now. And they were number 2 going into Week 7 last week. But since the start of the season, once again, remind you, since Week 1, the Steelers, they have started off on this list at number 12 and have worked their way up to the 2nd spot. But you also got some other people. So like I did mention, the quarterly, we'll get into that on next week's show. But remember, I did tell you I look at CBS, ESPN, Pro Football Focus, Pro Football Talk, and of course Steven's A-List. Pro Football Talk, aside from anyone else right now, when you look at it, I mean, they got the Steelers as the number one team going into this week. I mean, which is pretty darn impressive if you ask me. I mean, when you take a look at it, I mean, Pro Football Focus got the Steelers at number one right now. Then you got the Chiefs, the Titans, the Ravens, and the Bucks. For NFL.com, the power rankings for week number heading into week 8 are the Chiefs, followed by the Steelers, Tampa Bay, the Buccaneers. I mean, I'm sure a lot of it has to do with now their performance on Sunday against the Raiders, but also with the arrival of Antonio Brown coming back into football, reuniting with Tom Brady once again. I mean, they're at the number 3 seed, followed by the Ravens at 4, and then you got the Packers at 5, and then you got the Seahawks, Titans, Bills, Rams, and Saints in there. So, I mean, that's a pretty good list right here. I mean, if you take a look at it, I mean, you pretty much got 8 of last year's playoff teams in the top 10 for right now, just to give you an idea where everybody stands at. I will say for right now, I mean, the Steelers, I mean, listen, like I said, I mean, when we really break this whole thing down, they've beaten 2 winning teams so far, I mean, this season, and they've beaten a pair of playoff teams for this season with the Texans, the Eagles, and the Titans. They've beaten 3 playoff teams, which is pretty good. Like I said, you can't get mad for how the season and the schedules be constructed here. I mean, at the end of the day, I really do believe with this team. I mean, they've been handling business week to week. The only thing I continue to get concerned, and I've went at this with a couple of people online for social media, is that we've seen a pair of games so far this year where I'm looking at this team right now where they've almost blew, I mean, a 20-point lead and then a 14, 17-point lead. Listen, I do got legitimate concerns. I really do feel like this team gets a little bit too relaxed at times. I mean, when they build up a nice sizable lead for this season. I mean, that's really a shame to say that. I mean, when you really, I mean, take a look at it too. I mean, for all the things that they have done. Hold on one second. Sorry about that, folks. So when you look at, I mean, on CBS during Sunday's game against the Titans, which they almost blew a 20-point lead, almost lost that game, 224 victories, 0 losses, and a tie, which is insane right there. I mean, never losing a game when having a 20-point lead. I mean, when you really take a look at it. I mean, it just goes to show you a lot. I mean, what they do right there. And the only time they ever had a tie, it was a long time ago, and that happened before Chuck Noll's arrival. That was in 1968 for the St. Louis Cardinals, in case anyone was wondering so far. I'm still researching it for myself, just double check on that. But yeah, that's a pretty amazing run right there. I just feel like when it comes to this Steelers team, I mean, when we look at it, and one of the things too, I mean, when you look at it on the defensive side, I mean, don't get me wrong. I think third down. I mean, I think it's their third down conversions right there. They allow the quarterback to sometimes get a little bit too relaxed right there. Uh, Offenses are converting on the Steelers 42% of the time. I mean, when we look at it, I mean, they convert 34 third down conversions out of 81 attempts for 42%, which is ranked 18th. That needs work right there. I mean, you look at the Ravens on the flip side. They allow 26 out of 75 conversions for about nearly 35%, which ranks third. So that's going to be definitely a key level of concern right here. I mean, for this game going in here, I mean, you got a guy like Lamar Jackson who always finds a way to do his damage with his legs still. I mean, still is got ways to go if you ask me, trying to evolve as a passer. I mean, I definitely feel like for right now, I mean, that's just what he's especially in. I mean, and how John Harbaugh has maintained uh, last offseason that he found a way to revolutionize the new way of playing NFL quarterback. I mean, the way he sees things. I don't blame him for right there. I mean, this is a guy who they've been scouting uh, during 2017. I mean, Joe Flacco's last full season as a Ravens starting quarterback, and really just like this guy here. I mean, coming into this situation. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, Lamar Jackson, he has been the real deal. But I think, I mean, you look at some of the stuff, I mean, they do team to slip up in. As far as still being a top team, I mean, when you look at this Ravens matchup going into it, I mean, like, for example, I mean, the rushing touchdowns for this season. Surprisingly, the Steelers are ranked 13th ahead of the Ravens. They're up on them by 6 spots. Steelers got 8 rushing total touchdowns. Ravens only got 7 so far, which is not that bad. I mean, so that's one thing to pay attention to right there. But I mean, on the flip side, with the third down conversions, look at the offensive side of the ball. The Steelers are converting over 51% of their third down conversions. They're 47 for 92, while the Ravens are 32 of 76 for 42%, which ranks 19th. Well, there's some good signs right there as we look at it. I mean, as far as this 5-star matchup, as Mike Tomlin and a lot of the crew would handle it. And I just really feel like right now, I mean, this is going to really say a lot about this as far as them being a top team. I think they will be a playoff team. I have very confidence. I don't see them slipping out of that part. But for right now, if you're a team who's looking to not only, I mean, if you're going to make a deep playoff run, remember this is the year right now where the bye only goes to the top seed, not the top 2 seeds right now. So you do have to make sure you're maintaining business right there. I mean, you already checked most of the boxes right now. I mean, just controlling the games that you can control so far. I mean, in this contest right now, I mean, the biggest thing between the Steelers and Ravens is going to be the head-to-head tiebreaker right now. I mean, for going into this matchup is really what it comes down to. As far as like with all the tiebreakers in the AFC North right now, I mean, when we take a look at as far as when it comes with the Steelers and the Ravens, I mean, based on this situation here, I mean, for the time being, give me 1 second. I mean, with the Steelers and the Ravens, the Steelers got the edge so far over the Ravens as far as their conference record. Steelers are 4-0, Ravens are 3-1. With the one loss, coming across with no secret to Kansas City back in week number 3. And I think right now, I mean, if you look at that right there, and then like I said, Steve Young brought up an interesting stat. I think how Lamar Jackson here 0-5 or 0-10 when trailing by double digits or more. And that's one thing, I mean, he has a struggle is playing from behind. And I think that's got to be a reckoning cause we're concerned. I mean, if I'm John Harbaugh right now, I mean, whoever is going to be able to set the tempo for this game is going to be the one who comes out victorious, if you ask me. That's the way I'm going to look at it for right now. I think you got to make sure you control the tempo. And how you continue to control the tempo in this contest with the Steelers versus the Ravens is by controlling the time of possession right now. I mean, Steelers are controlling the time of possession with nearly 34 minutes when controlling the ball. Opposing teams who go up against them as far as like time of possession right now only control the ball for about 26 minutes and 5 seconds right there. So over 26 minutes. It's huge right there. And I think that was a very big case right there with the Titans. I tell you what, the Steelers would not control the ball for most of that game. That game, I guarantee you, would have been a different story. They would have gotten their first loss of the year versus the Titans in week number 7. I mean, other than that, I mean, you got a guy, I mean, Mike Tomlin right now. I mean, outside of Bill Belichick, I mean, I look at Mike Tomlin, John Harbaugh, and Andy Reid outside the greatest coaches, outside Bill Belichick. When we look at this as far as the best of the best in today's era right now. I mean, who just really are the true guys. When you think about NFL coaches these days, it is those 4 men right there. Because Andy Reid, look at him, a guy who's actually able to finally win his first Super Bowl in his 21st season. I mean, that's a long time, and it says a lot right there. But I mean, he's also a guy who's been able to construct a team right here. Again, we're talking Steelers-Ravens right now, going into week number 8 on the Mass Steel Podcast. So, of course, here's truly Charles Prodigy Richey. Now, here's some news coming up right now. It was announced by Adam Schefter of NFL on ESPN that the Steelers were going to experience a flex schedule change. Thankfully, it is not for this week's matchup, as we are aware for right now going into Sunday. It will be the Steelers versus Bengals Week 10 matchup where the Steelers will be hosting the Bengals in Pittsburgh. That's just going to be moved up from 12 to 3:25 p.m. So no worries, not a night game. It's just a late afternoon game. So instead of being 12 p.m. Central Time, 3:25 p.m. in the afternoon instead. Also, too, Steelers reporter Missy Matthews notes that Coach Tomlin said Robert Spillane's shoulder is fine and shouldn't limit him as they prepare for Baltimore. Mike Tomlin also had this to say on Vince Williams. He's really consistent. He's getting more opportunities. This year he's playing at a high level for us. Coach Tomlin on the injuries, as far as like one of their guys who I just mentioned a few moments ago right now, more particularly, I mean, with their defensive end / nose tackle, Chris Wormley, he says that he's getting an MRI on his knee. He was saying this yesterday, and that Jordan getting an MRI on his knee yesterday, and that Jordan Dangerfield is dealing with a quad injury that may limit him. Mike Hilton and Derek Watt are still working their way back. Remember, Mike Hilton, he was not a participant. Derek Watt was. And then, I mean, those are the only concerns I got for right there. I mean, David DeCastro, I hope he can be able to come back this week right here. And the biggest reason why I say that, I mean, for this time, I mean, you look at, like, back on the side of the defense, too, with it. I mean, the Ravens are pretty good in the pass rush themselves. They got 22 sacks right now through 6 games, which ranks 6th in the NFL. Steelers got 26 right now at 1, so they're well over the halfway mark and trying to get the first ever 4 straight years of 50 sacks or more. So, I mean, those are some things to pay attention to right there. The one thing I do like, and my favorite stat, too, like on the defense, is also this, too, is their stuff percentage. The times where they stuffed players at the line of scrimmage or for a loss of yardage. Steelers are number 1, according to Football Outsiders. That's a site associated with ESPN. They stuff their running backs 30% of the time, while the Ravens are 18% of the time. That ranks 8th for the Ravens, number 1 for the Pittsburgh Steelers, stuffing guys and creating tackles for loss. Something to pay attention to right there. But again, I mean, with a guy like Lamar Jackson's speed, he is elusive right here. I mean, definitely got to be quick. And I think you got to avoid letting this guy going from east to west. I mean, this guy is still lethal right here. I mean, just the way he runs. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing right there. I'm just thankful for right now that the Ravens, they did not sign Antonio Brown, but they did acquire, remember, Des Bryant to their practice squad. But still a little concerned right now if he's going to be able to play this weekend or at all for the Ravens this year right now. I mean, this guy who's been signed to the practice squad right now, I mean, it hasn't played a snap in nearly 3 years, which is crazy. Remember, he did try, I think, a year or 2 ago with the Saints, got injured right there. He was out for the rest of the year. Man, I mean, this is a guy right here who has been waiting a long time right now. I mean, who's been waiting to make his impact, his presence known. I mean, he's still, back in his time, considered a big threat receiver as far as a guy who could also be physical and make some game changing plays here. I mean, he'll always definitely remember for the no non call touchdown. I mean, former 3-time Pro Bowler, 1-time All Pro. This guy's compiled about 7,459 receiving yards with 531 receptions total, with a total scrimmage compilation of 7,456 scrimmage yards and 73 scrimmage touchdowns, too. I mean, so this guy has been very lethal in that area. I mean, all of his touchdowns being from receiving touchdowns right here. So it's still going to be interesting if he's going to be available for this game. I highly doubt it. But at the same time, too, I do feel right now, the only options I see from Mike Tomlin, when I look at it, it's John Harbaugh. He's just as competitive as Tomlin. A lot of people probably raise their eyebrows and wonder why John Harbaugh got Coach of the Year. I think Steelers fans definitely felt like, Tomlin should have gotten it. But, it made sense. John Harbaugh did deserve it. He deserved it. No question about it. He did deserve it. His team was like the number 1 seed. In the AFC, yeah, they lost. They're one and done in the playoffs for the second straight year. But at the same time, too, this is a team who really set a record for rushing yards, in the season right now. And when you really look at, from those perspectives right here, for the Baltimore Ravens, their rushing yards right there for the whole season, they had about 3,296 yards, which is ranked number 1 in the league, with 21 touchdowns, which was second. So 3,296 yards in that season, which was an incredible display right there. You had like Lamar Jackson and Mark Ingram. Lamar Jackson, for 1,206 yards, Mark Ingram, 1,018 yards. And you had Gus Edwards, 711, and Justice Hill, 225, primarily, with Mark Ingram leading the pack in the touchdowns in the ground game. So, you got to definitely watch. If it's not going to be a Lamar Jackson, you definitely got to keep an eye on Ingram. He is still another dangerous weapon that this team possesses right here. And I'm not going to lie to you. I think the Ravens, despite the fact that they are in second place going into this week, listen, it's all going to come down to the head-to-head matchup for the first half of these meetings right now. If the Steelers can take care of this victory, I'm going to really like their chances for the rest of the way. I really mean that. And I still maintain the fact that they're going to at least go get 2 out of these 3 victories. I'm not sure about all 3, but they get this win. They probably might get the clean sweep, if you ask me, for this 3-game road streak, which was a super important and very notable right here. So, real quickly, I just want to go off topic here a little bit, but I just want to ask, did anyone happen to watch the World Series last night, the conclusion of the World Series? What was your thoughts right there on Justin Turner right there, a guy who tested positive? We found out during the game. It was announced officially at the conclusion of game number 6 that he had to be removed during the game. He was isolated. His team ended up winning the World Series, but still was able to come back out there on his team. I'm sure permitted by the organization, the front office, and his teammates and his coach. Was still able to take a team photo, lift the World Series trophy. What did you think about that? Do you think that's a little bit of a stain right there? Not a stain on their World Series championship, but a disappointing image at the end of the day. What do you guys think about that? Do you think that takes away from what they accomplished last night? I would like to hear your thoughts on that. Definitely. But like I said, right now we got football the rest of the way here. Steelers playing with some house money right now. And the last time I think they ever really been this good, it's got like a 2004 type of feel. to this group, in my opinion. I mean, with the only difference being that Ben Roethlisberger is not a rookie quarterback. I mean, of course. I mean, just stating the obvious here. But I mean, when you also look at it too, I mean, another thing aside from this, I mean, we're looking at it right now. As far as like the Super Bowl odds that are released by OddsShark going to week number 8, the Steelers have the fourth best odds of winning the Super Bowl right now at plus 750. 15-2 odds right now for them to win the Super Bowl. So their implied odds are about 11.76%. You got the Chiefs at number 1, Ravens at number 2, Buccaneers at number 3, and then you got the Seahawks at 5. Chiefs are plus 350, 7-2 odds. Ravens and the Bucks, plus 650, 13-2 odds. And then you got the Seahawks at plus 800, which is right after the Seahawks. After the Steelers at 8-1 odds right there. So that's some good news right there. Some great stuff right now. I'm going to go ahead and call it a wrap here on this edition here on the Mass Steel podcast right now. Feel free to catch back with me on Sunday at 10:30 a.m. Central Standard Time for the pregame show. I'll give you my quick notes as we head into this elite matchup. Once again, you can follow me on social media, on Twitter and Instagram at Prodigy Richey. For the Mass Steel podcast on Twitter, it is simply at Mass Steel CGR and at Mass Steel Nation on Instagram. As always, leave you. Don't be trolling, be rolling. Here we go, Steelers. Here we go. I gone.